Welcome once again into our ESPN FC studios. I'm Alexis Nunes, and joining me is Paul Mariner for yet another Facebook Live, and this is his first Facebook Live. We had to take some time to explain to him exactly what it is. But one of the cool things about this, Maras, is that we will be taking your questions. So if you have any questions or comments for the big man, especially after that game between Brazil and Costa Rica, do send them on, and he will tackle them. So there we go. That's what we're talking about today. Brazil, Costa Rica. It says 2-0 on paper, but it wasn't exactly the most comfortable 2-0 win for the Seleção. Both goals coming from Coutinho and Neymar coming after 90 minutes of play, Maris. So your just biggest takeaways from the game? Starting with the first half, which wasn't.
No, it was dreadful. I mean, it really was. I mean, look. There's a lot of pressure on Brazil. We understand that, and we knew Costa Rica were going to play. They kept the lines very, very tight. They tried to hit Brazil on the break, but Brazil out of possession were absolutely fantastic. It was didn't really get you out of your seat. They played a little bit too slow. What happened at half-time? Credit to the coach. He changed it. He took Willian off and he brought on Costa. Costa changed the game. For me, he changed the game. But
you said Brazil knew that Costa Rica were going to go in here to frustrate them, and frustrate them is exactly what they did. And this is Brazil that we're talking about. And we knew that eventually their class or experience or whatnot, even though they do have quite a few young stars too, was eventually going to pay off. But I was a little surprised at the level that they got frustrated at. You could see it in their faces. You could see especially Neymar as well becoming, and so many people look to him to lead this Brazil team.
Well, the thing is, if you cast your mind back to the first game, when you go into a World Cup, it's absolutely paramount importance that you win that first game, because the nation breathes a sigh of relief. The players and squad and everybody, coach yourself, breathes a sigh of relief, because you got that 3 points. You've almost got 1 foot, into the next round. So for them to draw, there's incredible pressure that came on them. Now, as we just said, Costa Rica, we knew they were going to set up. And they were fantastic. They played like 3 central defenders with the wing backs, but they really sat in. They had the 5 and the 4, and then just a 1 to try and break quickly. So, Marcelo was trying to get down the side for Brazil, but he was sort of being thwarted all the time, purely and simply in the first half, because it was too slow. When Costa came on second half, he played with a little bit more zip, and he was taking players on, and he was passing the ball with a little bit more urgency. Coutinho and Neymar will get the headlines because they score, but I think Costa should get a little pat on the back.
Well, speaking of Philippe Coutinho, his goal was just absolutely cheeky. Just nicely came, perfect timing, towed it in. And we have a question on Coutinho. Coutinho seems to have a growing influence on Brazil. How important is he for this team?
Well, he's super important because, if you look at Neymar drifted out on the left-hand side, he was actually marshalled fairly well, but he kept chipping away, give a bit of credit to Neymar. But when you just have Coutinho underneath in that number 10 role, the way that he moves the ball, he passes the ball quickly, he sees the pass extremely quickly. His link-up play with Gabriel Jesus was fantastic. And you just talk about the goal. That was a Coutinho type of goal. He sees it so quickly. Gabriel Jesus, he didn't have a particularly good touch when the ball was played to him. In fact, it got away from him. But Coutinho saw what was happening, and he just got in and little toe poke and nutmeg Navas, because up until that point, Navas and Costa Rica were almost, they were absolutely fantastic, so resolute in the defending.
Must have been heartbreaking, especially when that goal went in, and then after that. But you could see them getting a little tired and being worn down after a while.
But you could see what happened to Costa Rica. When that goal went in, they knew, it was at 91st minute, they knew that was it. They knew they weren't coming back, and the level just dropped off a little bit, and then hence Neymar getting in late on.
Well, we're still going to talk a lot about Neymar, because there's always plenty to talk about when it comes to Neymar. But just reading another question, Mara, someone knows that you're a very big fan of Gabriel Jesus.
Yes, I am.
He played, you just touched about that, but he had a nice little tidy assist there for Coutinho, even though you said it wasn't the best.
It wasn't. It's
his first World Cup. He's still young.
Look, he's just turned 21. I mean, let's give the lad a bit of a break. I just, when I watch him play for City in the Premier League, I look at his movement. His movement in the box is absolutely incredible. For someone so young, he's going to score a lot of goals, this lad, even though you can see he's trying his damnedest to score for Brazil. I think he's in the purely and simply because of his ability. All the players respect him. They get the ball into him. They feed him the service. He will score goals. There's no two ways about it. But, you know, obviously when you've got the supporting cast of Neymar and Coutinho and people like that around him, he's going to get opportunities.
Lots and lots of big names on that Brazilian team. Well, we know that they do have the stars, as we have just named them, but Kagosi King wants to know, what is this Brazilian team missing? So he doesn't sound kind of like me 100% impressed with them. Now, I have always loved Brazil and supported Brazil, watching them in the past, the good old days. They're what made me love football now. And we've just been desperate to see a dominating Brazil team like we are. This year, we have felt like this would have been the chance. I had them as my favorites to win the World Cup. But again, something seems like it's just not quite there, Maras. What would you put it down to?
Look, a couple of things. Pressure as a way of, you know...
But that's nothing new to them. This is Brazil we're talking about.
No, but I'll go back to my other point. They drew the first game, so the pressure mounts.
They feel like they're playing catch-up now.
Yeah, a little bit, to a certain degree, but it's the pace of the game. The players that they've got, look, I think they're very, very solid. The goalkeeper's solid as a rock. Defensively, they're very, very good. The protection in front's very good. So when they're in possession, they're very, not overcautious, but they're aware of the positional play when they're in possession. That might seem a strange thing, but it's very important. If you lose it, then you get done on the counter. So some of the so-called better teams might do you on the counter. But going forward, they've got so many weapons. If you look at, the coach can go to the bench if his starting 11 is not working. I personally just think it's the pace in which that front five, the way that they go about it.
Well, speaking since you're talking about the attack, Halon Martin wants to know, should Brazil shift attack from Neymar to Coutinho, especially with all that surrounding Neymar right now, and like you said, all the pressure that the whole team is going through? It looks like Coutinho is holding up a lot better than Neymar.
Well, they both got a little bit frustrated today with the referee.
Yeah.
That was a great battle, by the way. The referee and Neymar, the ref was having none of it.
That was the number one battle.
It was funny. It was really funny.
He wasn't falling for Neymar's antics.
Look, I think Neymar will always be the focus of this team. But I don't know what the possession stat was. I know it was a high possession stat for the team, but how many touches Coutinho had? I think he had quite a few. When he's in that position, like I said about the pace in which they play the game, when they get the ball into Coutinho rather than Neymar, he gets it and he gives it. If he sees it on for the dribble, he'll take the dribble. But if he sees a player open, he releases it very, very quickly, where Neymar was frustrating in the first half. He wanted to show everybody what a good player he was. Well, he showed everybody that he's a little frustrating to play with because he didn't release the ball quickly enough. He had numerous times, he had Marcelo wide open, Coutinho was wide open, and he hung onto the ball a little bit more. Now, when they hang onto the ball, then it gives Costa Rica that opportunity to collapse on their numbers again. So I agree with the question. I think you can't go wrong going through both of those lads. I mean, it's just an embarrassment to riches. But to a certain degree, for me, Coutinho certainly throughout the 90 minutes lets the ball go quicker. Whereas Neymar maybe had a word with him at half-time because he did change his game a little bit.
Well, Neymar, like I said, he is shouldering a lot of the burden. That's what happens when you become one of the biggest footballers in the entire world. He's now Brazil's actual third highest goal scorer, only behind Pele and Ronaldo. So that's not too bad company to be up there with. So we should cut him some slack. I suppose we will eventually get to see that Neymar that we hope to see. But one thing, when it comes to Neymar, this is a huge criticism, and that is the diving, the show that we see, which I'm a huge believer that Neymar has the quality where he doesn't need to do that. You don't need to be, even though there was pressure and he probably was begging for that penalty because then Brazil needed something. Minutes were ticking away, so they needed something. So someone now is asking, is VAR, and as we saw it today, going to cut into the diving epidemic now that we saw it being used like that? And the referee, as you pointed out, bravely overturned his own decision.
Well, I think bravely he handled Neymar very, very well. He was having none of his shenanigans.
Yeah.
He's flopping and diving all over the place. You could see they're having an interaction. At one point, the camera went close in on Neymar because the referee touched him, and he said, "Don't touch me." So it was really fractious out there with those guys. I do tip my hat to the referee because he was having none of it. The one thing that I would have liked him to do is to show him a yellow card. If he's going to keep flipping and flopping all the time and diving, you've got to do, because 2 yellows and you got to sit one of the games out. You don't want that if you're a Brazilian fan. So it was funny to see the referee today. I thought he did a fantastic job. And like you said, to overturn his decision when he gave the pen, I thought there's no way that he's going to overturn his own decision. And he did. Credit to the lad.
Credit to him, indeed. All right, well, now let's take a little break from talking about Neymar. But someone you love talking about, good old Bobby Firmino.
Oh,
that's what Mariner calls Bobby Firmino. Is someone, or lots of people actually are asking. They seem to have been quite impressed with him, and why wouldn't you be? Should Firmino be getting more game time?
At the moment, I can't see him getting game time in front of the front four. If it's going to be Costa, Coutinho, Neymar, and Gabriel Jesus, who are you going to step out? I think, you know, when Bobby came on today, he wasn't electric. He wasn't doing a great deal, but as the game progressed, you know, and that's what you do when you come off the bench. You're an impact player, but he didn't impact the game quickly enough. But he did, as the game went on towards the latter stages, he did start to show his influence. So I personally, don't get me wrong, I love Firmino. What he does for Liverpool, when he gets in between the seams and sees those balls through to Salah and so on, he's absolutely amazing. Work rate is incredible. But I just think at the moment, I think the coach has got it right. I think coming off the bench, he's a fantastic option.
All right, well, there's another World Cup game that will be kicking off in just under 30 minutes, so we have to get cracking. Time flies when you're having fun, and I always have fun with Paul Mariner. But before we go, Maris, a lot of people have been asking the number one question. After what you've seen from Brazil so far, do you still think they can win the World Cup?
With their experience, with the coach, and the way that the players respond to the coach, and the way that the coach uses his bench, I think they can go a long, long way. Can they win it? I've got France, you've got Brazil, right?
Two teams that still
with this tournament, the way that this tournament's gone for the last, what was it, a week old or something, just over? Very difficult to predict these games. I mean, look at Mexico. Mexico have been fantastic against Germany. Can they do it again?
We will see.
In the next game, we don't know. So I'm going to stick with France. The usual suspects the cream does rise to the top normally, but we'll see. This is a strange World Cup.
We'll see, indeed. Only 2 games in for Brazil, but so far so good. I suppose they have silenced some of their critics today, including myself sometimes, even though they were my favorite team to win. Anyways, thank you so much, Paul Mariner. See, this was fun.
Yeah, I like it.
It wasn't bad for your first Facebook Live. And thanks so much to all of you guys for sending in your questions. We'll definitely be doing a lot more Facebook Lives as the World Cup carries on. And make sure to catch us on ESPN FC on ESPN Plus. We'll see you next time.